Suddenly I can hear the sound of repeated splashing water behind me. As I turn to see, I see Layla desperately flinging her arms through the water with her mouth wide open, looking as if she had forgotten that she couldn't talk and was trying to scream. Oh, she couldn't talk, okay. So we now know. Realizing what's happening, I quickly swim towards her and grab her by her shoulder in order to stop her arms from flailing. Layla, it's okay, I tell her as she's looking at me terrified. Just grab onto me, I'll lead us to shore. It takes her a few moments, but eventually she calms down, grabs onto me with both of her arms, holding me very tightly. Once I lead her safely to the shore, take a break to catch our breaths. We are both soaked to the skin, and the air around us is definitely not as warm as it is on the surface. Ideally, I would make a fire in this situation, but is there any wood to be found in an underground cabin such as this? My question gets immediately answered as I turn around and see a wooden cabin a few hundred feet from where we are standing, and there's also a big pile of logs stacked up right in front of the door. How convenient. I don't think it's a good idea to start a fire, but whatever. As I look towards the cabin, Layla pulls on my shirt to get my attention. When I turn to look at her, I see that she is lying on her knees with her wet hair covering most of her face and her head bowed down. I'm sorry, she writes simply. About what? I ask. About dragging you into this, she writes. Layla, I say, if you hadn't dragged me into this, you wouldn't have ended up drowning in that lake. If you hadn't... Oh, okay. Layla keeps staring at the ground as the writing slowly disappears. Listen, I say, there's nothing to be sorry about. I don't think this would be a trap either. I'm still not sure if it's a trap actually. I mean, I'm sure it was designed as a trap originally, but who knows if anyone even remembers that it exists. Either way, even if we have lost our way back, I don't think that we are in the wrong place. The only thing that's changed is that we now also have to look for a way back to ourselves while we look for the creatures. When I talk to Layla, the ropes leading to the ceiling are starting to catch my attention. They're all coming out of the water, and the way they're distanced from each other makes me think they're tied to some sort of platform at the bottom of the lake, possibly an elevator. I wonder if there's a lever or something at the bottom of the lake that could activate the elevator. That could be the case, actually. Let me see. I mean, think about it. Maybe it was not a trap door. It's actually a elevator that takes you up, but over time, since no one was using it, some cave water started flowing in and formed this little puddle of water underneath here. It's actually not a lake originally. It just looks like it now after many years of no use for it and non-maintenance. So I guess I'll swim to the bottom of the lake since you can find a way to start the elevator. Just thought of something, I say. Do you see those ropes? Layla nods. I think there might be tied to a platform at the end, lower end. I say, I want to check out the bottom of the lake and see if there's isn't a lever of some sort that I can use to activate the elevator. Can you wait for me here? Okay, Layla writes. Jump into the lake and I swim back towards the rope. When I reach them, I take a deep breath and dive into the water. Seems that I was right. There is really a platform at the bottom of the lake. I tied to the ropes. However, there is no obvious mechanism that looks like it could be used to operate the elevator, as far as I can see. The only thing that looks like something of sort is a stone pillar. Next to the platform with a hole at the top shaped like a spider. In this elevator, if this elevator is requiring some kind of spider-shaped key in order to get activated, then I'm out of luck. Few more unsuccessful rounds of circling the platform for signs of lever. I finally ran out of breath and I go back to the surface to get some air in my lungs. This is pointless. Unless I find that spider key, there's no way I can operate this elevator. I might as well get back to the shore. Did you find anything? Layla writes as she sees me get out of the water. I didn't see any levers, I say, as I squeeze the water out of my shirt. The most I could find was a pillar with a spider-shaped hole in it. Unless we find a spider-shaped key of some sort, the elevator isn't going to be of much use to us. Let's head for the cabin. Maybe we'll find some flint or something to start a fire with. Layla nods. We both start to walk towards the cabin. It is something that's been bugging me about this wooden cabin since I first saw it. Unless there are some trees miraculously growing in these cabins somewhere, this cabin could not have been built by someone who got trapped in here before us. That means that it was most likely built by the same person who designed the trap, or at least by a person who knew about it. Knew about it maybe, or whatever, who can reach the place by some other means. The fact that there are a bunch of logs conveniently placed right next to the lake in which we fell makes me believe that this was done intentionally. However, they go out of the way to make things more comfortable for us. Is this their way of granting us our last wish before they send the beast to kill us? We reach the cabin. I go inside carefully, making sure there are no traps. The cabin doesn't have any fireplace or chimney, but there are some firewood inside and also some flint. I take the firewood and the flint outside, and then I take some of the dried up moss from the cave walls and I provide a bit of kindling. Once we set up a fire, Layla and sit ourselves down next to it, trying to get as close to the heat as we can. It is not does not have bad, I tell Layla, as the two of us do our best to warm ourselves by the fire. A quick improvised fire that we lighted with flint and moss. I say we did pretty well. Layla knows. She then turns her back to the fire, trying to dry her hair without getting it burned. You know, I've always meant to ask, I say, as I watch her dry her hair. Is silver your natural hair color? I've never seen anyone with silver hair before. But then again, I can't say that I've met many Lissetti in my life. Layla doesn't answer me. She just stares in front of her for a while. It's difficult to tell her expression when she has on her face because of the hair in her eyes. Is this something that you don't want to talk about? I say. No, it's fine. Layla writes. She pauses. Have you ever heard of the Beacon of Hope? She writes. You're talking about the orphanage that was experimenting with creating artificial mages? Then yes, I've heard of it, I say. Were you one of the Lissetti who worked there? Layla shakes her head. No, she writes. I'm one of the failed experiment. The reason why my hair is silver is because it's lost its color gradually. The side effect of the several years in which they experimented on me, trying to make me into a mage. My hair used to be pitch black. Oh gods, I say. Is this also the reason why you lost your voice? No, Layla writes. I was born this way and I was given hell because of it. I don't remember much from when I was little, but I do remember what the other Lissetti used to say about me, that they said that I wasn't a real Lissetti. They said that the Lissetti are a pure race that cannot have birth defects, and they suspected that the reason why I was born a mute was because I was in fact a half Lissetti. I think that even the person that I once used to call my father had doubts about me. He never seemed to consider. Wait, you went so far for your father? I thought you had good relationship with him. Once called your father? I mean, you just saved him like 2 days ago or whatever. I think that even the person that I once used to call my father had doubts about me. He never seemed to consider me his real child, and he always used to blame my mother for dying and for leaving him to care for her daughter. That's probably why he didn't think twice when they asked if any of the Lissetti who worked at the Beacon were willing to volunteer the children for experiment. Oh, maybe the original father. The father she's talking about is her adopted father. Wait, you just said that you used to call him your father, I say. But you said yesterday the reason why you were brought here was because you saved your father from slavery. The person you saved, is he someone other than your natural father? The person I saved is the one I've been calling father for the past 10 years, Layla writes. He's one who rescued me from the Beacon all those years ago when I was almost about to give up all hope. Is this why the two of you became outcasts? I ask her. Layla nods. My father had been one of the caretakers of the Beacon, Layla writes. When he couldn't bear to see us suffer any longer, decided to help us escape, even if this meant he would be marked as an outcast for the rest of his life. Were there any other escaped with you? I ask. Layla shakes her head. My father tried to convince other children to follow him, but they were too afraid to trust him, Layla writes. They must have thought that he was trying to trick them. He didn't have the time to talk to all of them because one of the orphans ratted him out to the other Lissetti and was forced to make a run for it. He made one last attempt to save the orphans, opening the cells before leaving the facility, but in the end I was the only one who followed him. Didn't they try to capture you afterwards? I say. They did, Layla say. That's why we were forced to live the next few years of our lives hiding in the woods of Arathia. At first, we would change our location once every few days to make sure they didn't pick up on our trail, but after a few months, my father finally managed to obtain all the parts he needed to make a suggestion device. Suggestion spells that can implant certain thoughts into the minds of people and make them think that these thoughts are in fact their own. The device that my father made could cast a spell that would make people avoid an area because every time they went near it, they would get a certain urge to go around it. Oh, I know this spell, I say. I have a friend who uses it all the time. The spells allowed us to finally settle down in one place, Layla writes. We built our own wooden cabin in the middle of the woods near a river, and we even cultivated a garden. Some of the animals appeared to be immune to the suggestion spell. They didn't seem to mind our presence. They even brought us food on occasion. So how did your father get captured then? I asked. Did your suggestion spell malfunction? No, Layla writes. We moved out of the woods eventually. The Lissetti's leadership had changed while we were away. The new leader, Meredith, had prohibited the hunts for Lissetti outcasts. My father insisted that we move into a city because he then would have easier access to the parts he needed to work on his devices. At the time, I did not understand why he would want to risk his safety just to work on some devices. I only understood his true purpose a few years later when he gifted me my stat booster on my 16th birthday. Back then, it could only write a few words, but he has been perfecting it over the years. Eventually, it got to the point where I could put almost all of my thoughts into words using my device. Oh no, I say. I just remembered something. What? Layla writes. The device, I say, as I quickly pull the stat booster out of my pocket. I completely forgot about the stat booster. I started to shake the stat booster to make sure that it doesn't have any water in it. And then I tested all the buttons one by one without looking locking in my stats to see if everything still functions properly. When Layla understands what I'm doing, she begins to giggle silently. It will make more than a little water to make these devices stop working, Layla writes. Don't worry, your stat booster is fine.